Hey, good morning, everyone. Hey, Bearded Picker, thanks for coming in. This is my Monday morning chat show. Let me check my YouTube stream here real quick and make sure it is up and going, and then we'll get started. Hope everybody had a really good weekend. Uh, it always takes a while for YouTube to catch up. Hey, Carla B. Hey, Hazely, Hazel, Hazel Yay Figgle. Car, Cuttlebug09, thanks for coming in. Sorry if I butcher usernames. I'm the king of that. And today I went yard selling over the weekend with my brothers. We had a brothers weekend at the lake. It was an incredible weekend. We rented a house and then just spent all day Friday, all day Saturday doing nothing but yard selling. I live in Knoxville, as many of you know. The lake house was about halfway between here and Chattanooga. So we did most of our yard selling down in Chattanooga, but thought that got me to thinking about different sourcing things. And I was just curious what everybody did for sourcing and thought we'd discuss a little bit about how I source and get some feedback from how other people source. It was actually really good to get to spend some time with my brothers and see how they source because both of them resell as well. My youngest brother, John, used to be a full time reseller for about 5 years. And then, for a variety of reasons, he ended up going back into the, I guess, real job world, for lack of a better term. And then my middle brother, he also does reselling, but has never done it full time. So now I'm the one taking the stab at full time reselling. Been doing it for, just about a little over 2 years. I started in September of 2021, and so far so good. So we'll see how it goes. Hey, Euphoria Fashion, welcome in. Make sure you vote in the poll. It looks like we do have one vote for yard sales, three votes for thrift shops as far as your favorite place to thrift. Let me check YouTube over here one more time and see if that is now started. I don't know why it's so slow to start over there. It'll eventually show up. So if you're watching on YouTube, appreciate you coming by. And I'll check it again here in a minute and make sure nobody's chatting. But come on over to Whatnot and join us over here. Hey, Joanna Delgado, thanks for stopping by. So I do this show every Monday morning. I do have stuff in the buy it now, but I don't typically do any auctions or anything on Monday. I do my regular auctions typically every other Friday, although I did bump my this week's auction off to next Friday because we have a couple of big festivals this weekend we're participating in Clinton, Tennessee, where I have my antique mall. There's the Fall Antique Festival, which is a huge deal, and I'll be working there for sure on Saturday, maybe on Friday as well. And then Amy, my wife, who does the Whatnot shows with me, she will be doing a Lucky Dog Holiday Festival, which is where we'll be selling our Franklin Hill Farms products this weekend. We also sell them out of the booth, but she'll be only selling those. Hey, Pumpkin Addict, BBB 1010, thanks for coming in. Um, and we also have the Franklin Hill Farms products in our Buy It Now, so check those out. There's a lot of things in the Buy It Now, but you can find just the Franklin Hill Farms if you just put in the word Franklin Hill in the search, and it'll bring all those up. I appreciate the people who reached out to me. I actually had two people reach out to me who might be coming through Knoxville this weekend, and we're going to try to stop by Granny's Attic in Clinton, where I have my booth, and say hello. So I really appreciate that. Hey, Country Living, Slam Bolt, appreciate y'all stopping by. So, thought I'd talk a little bit about each of the ways I source. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, when I went yard selling this weekend with my brothers, a couple of things I learned. I mean, I try to learn something new every day, and it was interesting to see the different things that each of us looked at. I mean, I tend to look more at vintage and antique, hard goods, those types of things, collectibles. Like I picked up this little lacquerware box that I'm getting ready to list. For example, got a couple of those, and actually picked up some Russian Christmas ornaments that I've already sold. Sold those over on Poshmark, and I think I paid like 50 cents a piece for them. Sold them for 36. So that was a good buy. They were really cool. I think they're pretty sure they were vintage. So, and they were made in Russia. Let me check the YouTube over here one more time, see if it has started. There we go. So yeah, anybody's over on YouTube, welcome in, and you can click on the QR code to come over here and join us on Whatnot. Hey, Crazy Train Ferret, thanks for stopping by. So yeah, anyway, as I mentioned, I tend to buy more vintage and antique. Both my brothers tend to focus more on clothes and things of that matter. So I was asking a ton of questions of them, what they look for in clothes. And I know my youngest brother, he bought a bunch of hats, a bunch of jeans. I did buy some t-shirts this weekend, but that was really the only clothes that I bought. But John actually listed a bunch of the stuff before we even left the lake house, and he had sold a couple of things overnight before we left. So I've just sold the one item so far, the Russian Christmas ornaments. Hey, welcome in J3R3. My Rich, appreciate you stopping by. I am Stuart with Franklin Hill Ventures here in Knoxville, Tennessee. In addition to Whatnot, I sell on 6 other online platforms and also have 3 antique booths here in the Knoxville area. Have one at West End Antiques and then one at Bearden Antique Mall. Both of those are in Knoxville. And then I also have one in Clinton, Tennessee at Granny's Attic, which is just about 30 minutes north of Knoxville. And that's where the big antique festival is this weekend. So looking forward to that. That's by far our biggest weekend of the year. And I mean, it's really a zoo up there. I would, if you're anywhere close to Knoxville or looking for something to do this weekend, a road trip, I would highly recommend coming to Clinton. I mean, all the antique booths in the area, and there's probably 10 or 12 right in the downtown Clinton area. They shut down the streets so you can walk between all the antique malls. They all run sales. There's street vendors, there's food vendors, there's live music. And yeah, it's just there's a whole lot to do, and it's a real fun time. And then there's also a spring festival in Clinton, but it's not quite as big as the fall festival. So, um, so as far as yard sales go, I mean they are probably one of my favorite ways to source. The issue is, they're not consistent enough to always find stuff. Being a full time reseller, to get enough inventory to sustain me. But I do probably find the biggest margin items yard selling. For example, those Christmas ornaments I just talked about, $1.50 for the 3 of them into $36 was a pretty good return. Also got like a big floor vase, a big Asian floor vase that was vintage, that was pretty cool. Bought a lot of artwork this weekend. Those go in my booth. Some leather elephants, which were nice. Hey, Sony TM, welcome in. And as I mentioned, based on being with my brothers this weekend, I'm going to try to maybe focus a little. Well, not really focus, but at least look at clothes while I'm out. I know my brother was telling me, basically any any Levi's jeans, if you can get them for $1, pick them up. He said most of them will sell for $16 to $20. And then the other thing, he bought a lot of were, he said any ladies jeans, he said sell well. So I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and start maybe putting a little more focus on that and see how it goes. Does anybody else in here sell much in the way of clothes? That's just something. I've never been a big clothes guy. I mean, always been more of just, I wear a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. So I'm by no means a fashion person. Do wear jeans occasionally and, dress up occasionally. But anyway, hey, All Pro 1965, Italiano 78. Appreciate y'all stopping in today. Let's see. So we've got thrift shops, yard sales. Well, thrift shops are still leading the way with 4 votes. And then we have yard sales, estate sales, and auctions all with 1 vote. So I also frequent estate sales. And, I've learned which ones here in Knoxville are reasonably priced. Uh, I know a lot of estate sales you go to, they are charging retail prices, but there's one in particular in Knoxville that I think does the best job in balancing doing right by their clients versus, making it where resellers still have some value when they go in there. In fact, I found a book. I may have mentioned this in my show last week, but I found a book of the Friday before last that was from 1738 in an estate sale, and I paid $2 for it. I mean, it's a really, really cool book. Has, I think, 27 like etchings, engravings in it, and it was all about the English Civil War under King. I think it was King George the First. Here, let me just grab it and show it to you. It's really, really neat. Hold on just a second. Yeah, this thing's in remarkably great shape to be as old as it is. So it's the history of the rebellion. Try to show this without messing anything up here. So like, here's the title page. So let me pick this up very carefully here. So there's one of the etchings in the front, and there's the title page. I'm not really going to try to show any other pages because it gets a little hard, but you can see the date down there, 1738. So that was definitely one of my favorite finds at the weekend. Then I got another book set at the same estate sale. It was 1910 Don Quixote. Sorry about that. And it was a 4-volume set from 1910, and also paid $2 a piece for those. So have the whole 4-volume set for $8. So wished I could find stuff like that every weekend, but of course it doesn't always work out. But yeah, that was, I mean, and I really didn't even know what I had till I got home, because I always, at this one particular estate sale company, I always go straight to the books because not many other people are looking for them. And I mean, since they're only $2, I mean, anything that looks old and looks in decent condition, I just pull it and put it in my bag. And when I got home and started looking at that, I mean, I can read Roman numerals, but I usually Google them just because I'm not always 100% sure. So when I Googled that and it came out 1738, I was like, wow, this is a really old book. I mean, it's older than the United States. So I was really excited when I found that. And the only comps I found were in the like $600 to $800 range, which I guess makes sense because there can't be too many of that book in that great a condition still around. So I have it listed on another platform for $725. So we'll see how that goes. I know, when you get into that price range, your audience tends to be pretty small, so it could take a while to sell, but we'll see, and I'll keep everybody posted. So, as I mentioned, I mean, yard sales are probably one of my favorite ways to source, but you just can't find enough, or at least I can't find enough to make it my sole source. And then I do like estate sales as well, but it's a whole lot harder to find value, obviously. Hey, Steve, welcome in. Main Auction Company. Make sure you check him out. He runs incredible ephemera shows. Oh, and I'm glad you like the apple pecan butter. Love Be My Motive Studio. Let's see who else we got in here. Vintage 08, Ohio Nurse. Appreciate all y'all stopping by. Just talking this morning about different ways of sourcing, just curious what everybody else does. This was prompted because I did a big yard selling weekend with my two brothers. We went to the lake, which about an hour from Knoxville, and then basically sourced all day Friday and Saturday at yard sales. And of course, it was really great to get to spend some time with my brothers, but we also had a really fun time and a really productive time yard selling. We came home with a carload for sure. I think the most interesting things we found, my brother bought 2 mounted fish. One was like an 8-pound striper, and the other was about a 4-pound striper. So they were in okay condition. I'm not sure what he's going to do with them, but I know sometimes taxidermy stuff like that sells well online. Probably my favorite things I found, I got this really nice solid brass fire screen that, I mean, really, really heavy. I think I paid $40 for it. I'll put that in my antique booth, and it should bring an easy 125 or so. So that's probably my favorite, and I guess the coolest thing for me that I found anyway. Hey, Fart Queen, welcome in. Sukiyaki61, and good morning, Ohio Nurse. Do have a lot of stuff in the buy it now, including our Franklin Hill Farm stuff, so check that out. I do have shipping capped at $8.35, so regardless of how much you buy, that will be the most you'll pay. So that kind of covers yard sales and estate sales. Does anybody in here do the bins? I think I've been to the, oh, thank you. That's kind of a local singer that I started going to see in the early 90s. He's trop rock, Buffett like guy, and he's still going strong here, however many years later, 30 something years later, and plays a lot in the Knoxville area. Tall Paul is his name. He does actually shows all over the country. So if you ever see him come your way, make sure you check him out. You can go to Spotify, and he has a couple of original albums as well. So yeah, check out Tall Paul is his name. Paul Boble. This was Boble Fest, which is his show he does every year. He does it in different places. He happened to do it in Knoxville, I guess, either last year or the year before last. So yeah, I've been to the bins, I think, twice in my life, and the bins I've been to are the Goodwill bins. Well, I take that back. There is a bin store here in Knoxville that does Amazon returns, and I've been in there a couple of times, but really not the kind of stuff that I sell. Does anybody in here do much with the bins, and do you have much success? I see a lot of people talking about going to the bins. I think it's typically the Goodwill bins, and even finding vintage and antique stuff. The times I went, it was mostly junk, but I did find a few things, but really nothing to speak of. I went to the one in Nashville. It's the one that I've been to. So, but that's really my only experience with the bins, so can't speak too much to those. And then thrift shops used to be a lot higher on my list, but I don't know about. So what? So what kind of score was it, Vintage Concord? Was it just, are you talking about like you got packaging materials or? And we have the one, okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, because packing materials can definitely be expensive. And I tend to, I get a lot of free packing supplies, but I also supplement that with a lot of packing supplies that I buy. I tend to buy most of my boxes other than ones I get free from USPS, just because with the types of things I ship, once a box has been used, it loses a lot of strength. So I tend to want to use new boxes for the breakables and stuff that I ship. So yeah, that's awesome to find that. I have found some pretty good like packaging scores at thrift shops and stuff where they'll have like boxes, or also keep my name out there on Nextdoor, Craigslist, and Facebook Marketplace, that I'm always looking for packing supplies. So I tend to have a lot of people get in touch with me who have like bubble wrap and things like that. So my filler, I don't buy a ton of, but I do have to buy a little bit. So yeah, thrift shops. I'm not sure what everybody's thrift shops are like in the cities they're in. Here in Knoxville, they're okay. They used to be better, but just here in the last 3 months, like the main one I go to here in town, I always had really good luck, and I got to know the staff there. And I think if you go to thrift shops a lot, it's really important to make those relationships with people. The one that I would go to pretty much every day, and it was like cheers. They would all yell Stuart when I walked in the door. But like the girl who put out the clothes, she would like hide band t-shirts and stuff for me in different places. Now, other people might find them, but it was less likely since they weren't with the t-shirts. And then when I would come in, she would go try to find them for me. And then I used to be real good friends with the warehouse guy, and I got to be friends with him just by going in there. And he would wait and bring stuff out. Like when I got there, like somebody donated a whole storage building full of vinyl records, and he told me the day before. He said, "Hey, if you'll get here at this time, I'll bring those vinyl records out." And I think I ended up buying like 300 or 400 vinyl records that day. It's 99 cents each, and then I sell those in my booth, and they're kind of my bread and butter item in my booth. I sell a ton of vinyl, especially in Clinton, but also at my other 2 locations as well. So I think thrift shops have gotten harder to find value, at least for me, but I still go to them and I'll still find things. But once again, I can't find enough, to just go to thrift shops. So, and then auctions, whether it's online auctions or in person auctions. Once again, I don't know about everybody else, but here in Knoxville, pretty much all the in-person auctions dried up and everything went to online, which definitely makes it harder to find value because instead of competing against 100 people in the room, you're competing against the whole internet when you're trying to buy stuff. Once again, I'm still able to find value, and most weeks I'll buy a couple of things from the main auction company here in town that I frequent, but I definitely don't buy as much as I used to. Amy and I used to go to in person auctions every Thursday night, every Friday night, and every Saturday night. And that was where we got 95% of our inventory that we resold. Um, Now, I would say auctions are a fairly small percentage of what we resell. So if you add everything together, yard sales, estate sales, thrift shops, auctions that I have up there, I would say that accounts for altogether maybe 50% of what I get for inventory. Most of the stuff that I get is all based on the relationships I've made. That's from handing out my business card at yard sales, and I don't know how many people do that, but if you're serious about reselling, getting business cards made is really important. A couple of things I always do at yard sales, and I did it pretty much at every one I went to this weekend. I always ask, do you have vinyl records? Because a lot of times they don't bring them out, but they might have them in the house. And I've gotten some nice collections doing that. I'll usually ask if you have any like ephemera type stuff. Do you have postcards? Do you have old photos? Any of that sort of thing. And then I almost always give them my business card as well. If you come across this kind of stuff, call me. I deal in anything vintage antique. And I've gotten lots of calls after the fact, hey, I remember you from my yard sale. You said you bought antique and vintage and stuff. My grandmother's moving to assisted living, or just whatever, we're looking to get rid of this for whatever reason. And I've gotten so many opportunities to go buy stuff like in private picks, almost from just handing my card out at yard sales. But I also hand my card out at thrift shops. If you overhear something, or just people are buying certain things. And then also when I work at my antique mall, I keep my cards there. And just my name's gotten out there in Knoxville enough that I get at least a couple of calls a week now to come in, clean out houses, look at stuff. In fact, I'm supposed to go look at a big ephemera, um, I guess, lot today or tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to. I mean, she said she had a whole lot. Now, I don't know what the definition of a whole lot is, but we'll see. And hopefully that'll work out. So I would say relationships are probably where I get most of my stuff now, though. So if you add everything else together, it's probably 50%. And then, relationships account for the other 50%. They really took the place of auctions, in person auctions, once all those dried up after COVID. So, hey, welcome in. It's me, Tiffany, Bay Winter 40, Chelsea Martini 93, Dino 1307. Appreciate everybody stopping by. We are talking about sourcing today. I mean, I try to pick a different reseller topic every week just to chat about and, you know, see what I might can learn from other people. As I mentioned earlier, I really watch closely what all my brothers bought at yard sales this weekend because they sell under a completely different umbrella than I do. And, asked a lot of questions of them about what they look for in clothes and shoes and hats and those sorts of things. So, kind of my goal over the next couple of weeks, because October's typically a pretty big yard sale month here in Knoxville, just because it's cooled down some. And especially if it's not a day game for UT, if there's a morning or an afternoon game, it does like limit the yard sales because people don't want to have them, so they don't want to miss the UT game. But if it's an off week or they have a night game, then those tend to be good weekends now that it's cooled down. I know there's a bunch of neighborhood yard sales coming up, and neighborhood yard sales, I like going to them. Now, a lot of times, depending on the type of neighborhood, you end up with a lot of kids stuff and things of that nature. But you never know, and I tend to find a lot. We went to a lot of neighborhood yard sales this last weekend around Chattanooga, and and found quite a bit. But there were a lot of like houses you'd go to, and they would only have a few things, I guess, just because it was a neighborhood yard sale. So yeah, and I mean, I get a lot of estate sales as well. I just don't get enough. I mean, I do get a lot of. I get a lot of books at estate sales. Like I was showing that book I got from 1738 last week, and I also get a lot of artwork at estate sales. And then different types of glassware and furniture I will also get. But here in Knoxville, most of the estate sale companies tend to be, I don't know, they price on the higher end. And there's two or three that I frequent that I think do a good job balancing, doing right by their clients versus doing, right for people buying stuff as well. I mean, I know it's not their job to cater to resellers. They're trying to make the most money possible for the people they're selling for, but there's definitely a fine line there between pricing stuff too high where not that much stuff sells versus just giving the people stuff away. So I never get, whether it's thrift shops or estate sales, I mean, I never get mad when people price stuff certain ways. Yard sales, I mean, that's their prerogative. My thoughts always been, especially like when I have yard sales, I mean, I price everything to sell. I figure, you know and a lot of times I'll just price, everything the same price, like in a category, knowing that, you know, people are going to dig through stuff. And if they, feel they get a good deal on this, they might buy more. But, I think overall you make more if you sell more volume versus, pricing everything high and maybe only selling a few things. Um, but yeah, everybody can obviously price the way they want to. Oh yeah, I mean we're very fortunate here. I mean we have a pretty good yard sale economy, and the weather. I mean it gets hot in the summer here in Tennessee, but we pretty much have yard sales from around April till October. So a pretty long yard sale season. They do get kind of scarce in the middle of the summer when it's really really hot here, but overall, you can almost always find at least some yard sales every weekend. There's generally estate sales as well every weekend, so I hit those. I'll tell you what, we're getting close to 9 o'clock, and I usually try to run these shows just about 30 minutes or so. Sometimes we'll go a little long depending on, what we're talking about. But I always do a giveaway every one of these shows, and I try to make it representative of the types of things that I sell and whatnot. So I do mostly ephemera shows when I sell and whatnot. So today I'm giving away these two antique birthday postcards, probably from the early 1900s. Both are unposted and unused. This one says to greet you on your birthday. Tell you what, let me just go ahead and start it and then we can show them. And then I always find somebody to raid. All right, so that's running. We'll just let it run while we chat. Can't remember which one I showed first, but you got this one here with the little, I guess it's a little cupid or a little cherub. It says birthday greetings. That one's nice and embossed, so that one's a really cool one there. But I always like sharing my love of ephemera. I don't know about anybody else. Hey, you too. Thanks for stopping in. Um, you know, I was always into ephemera even before Whatnot, but Whatnot kind of took that to another level. The ephemera sellers on Whatnot, I mean, it's such a close knit community. People really bring a lot of good stuff, and I typically always have ephemera shows when they're running on in the background while I'm working during the day. I might buy a few things. I do source some and whatnot too. Speaking of sourcing, but I just like seeing what everybody brings. I love ephemera because of the stories it tells. Whether it's letters, which obviously tell their own story just by reading it, or photos where you can get some story from the photos, but then you kind of weave your own story in your mind, to postcards, to just whatever. Ephemera is probably my favorite thing that I sell. I won't say it's where I make the most money, but I do pretty well with it. But it's just such a fascinating subset of the antique and vintage stuff that I like so much. So anyway, so I always try to give away a couple of pieces of ephemera on my Monday morning shows, just to kind of share that love and hopefully expose some new people to the world of ephemera. But yeah, I would recommend, if you haven't watched any ephemera shows, there's definitely a lot of good sellers. Um, I know Main Auction Company always brings a lot of really great stuff to the table. Busy Bee Vintage, Mighty Annie, the Moody Mommy, and Vintage Concord, who was in here earlier. There's just tons of great ephemera sellers. So I know I left a bunch of people out, but those are some of the ones that I tend to frequent and buy stuff from. So make sure you check all them out and give them a follow. If anybody has any upcoming shows of their own, feel free to put that in the chat. I'm always about promoting other sellers and supporting the Whatnot economy, or the Whatnot community rather. Whatnot's my favorite place to sell. I have had to cut back on the number of Whatnot shows I do just because it became all consuming, which I've mentioned before. At the expense of other things that I do. As I mentioned, I sell on six other online marketplaces, Whatnot, and then also have the 3 antique booths. So I found that Whatnot had overtaken everything else I do. So now I've gone to pretty much every other week on the ephemera shows. Although this next ephemera show, I bumped it out a week, so it'll actually be 3 weeks between shows. So it's coming up a week from Friday, though, which I think will be the 13th. I believe is when the next ephemera show is, Friday the 13th. Picked a good day to do that on. Hey, Zoe Brook 2000, Crafty 11. Anybody else that I missed, appreciate you stopping by. Anybody who's come through YouTube, appreciate you coming in. The giveaway's got just about a minute and 20 seconds. So if you're interested in these postcards, make sure you get in on that. Then I do ask that you stick around after the giveaway's over. We'll go find somebody to raid. And um, I don't know about anybody else who sells. Obviously, it's always exciting to get rated. So I always try to raid somebody after any of my shows, whether it's this chat show or my regular sales shows that I do. So yeah, just stick around and we'll raid somebody. And then, if you're not interested in what they're selling, then you can leave and go about your day. But at least, hopefully we can put 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people in there. It's funny, this show on Monday mornings, I guess just being a Monday morning, you never know what's going on, but, I'll have anywhere from, 8 to, I've had as many as 25 or 30. I guess it just depends on the subject and what everybody's got going on that day. So, but I appreciate everybody stopping by today, and, hope you enjoyed talking a little bit about sourcing. Just got 5 seconds on the giveaway, and this will ship out today. I always tend to try to ship my stuff out, next day, if not same day. So, but those postcards will definitely go out. And congratulations, Sarbra 111. Appreciate you stopping by, and congratulations on the giveaway win. So let's kind of see where we ended up on the poll, and then we'll find somebody to raid. If anybody has any last minute comments on where you source, your favorite places to source, drop them in the chat there. So we ended up, let's see, the leader was thrift shops with 7. Then we had estate sales and auctions both came in at 6. Yard sales was 5. And interestingly enough, nobody put the bins as their favorite place to thrift. I know a lot of people really love the bins. As I mentioned, I can't really say much about them because I've only been to the bins. Well, I've been to the Goodwill bins twice. Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. I've been to the Goodwill bins twice in Nashville, and then we have one of those kind of pallet return bin stores that opened up, here in Knoxville, and I've been to that a handful of times. So, but yeah, I guess with the kind of stuff I sell, the bins aren't really, where I'm going to find most of my stuff. Well, I appreciate you coming in. I do have lots of stuff in the Buy It Now. So I know that I sell a lot of my Franklin Hill Farm stuff out of the Buy It Now. That's probably the thing I sell the most out of the Buy It Now. Although I've been pleasantly surprised here lately. I've been selling, you know, enough to make it worth it out of the marketplace, as well as people coming into shows when they're not live and buying stuff out of the Buy It Now. So if you do sell and whatnot, it's definitely worth it to load up your store, with items. And I'm trying to remember the last thing I saw. I sold something, I think it was over the weekend, out of the marketplace. And then I'll typically sell some jams and jellies, other things like that during the week as well. So anyway, thanks for everybody stopping by. Let's go find somebody to raid here real quick. Okay, well, let me look on my computer and see who's running a show. If anybody has any suggestions for who we raid, just let me know. I thought I've read somewhere that Whatnot now has a random raid functionality, but I haven't seen it yet. Let's see. Here's a Shop My Shelves Vintage Variety. Let me go to Antiques here. Hope everybody has a fun and productive day today. I've basically got a list all the stuff I found at the yard sales from the weekend. I guess we'll raid the Snug Bungalow. They look like there's not a whole lot of stuff going on in the antique category right now. So that's one of the few. So we'll raid them. So we'll raid the Snug Bungalow. So just hang on just a second. Let me end this poll so I can see the raid button. Hold on just a second. Let me go back into my show. Appreciate everybody voting in the poll, and I'm going to end it right now. And now I can get to the raid. And it was going to be the Snug Bungalow. Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, Georgia Dog. Just getting ready to finish up and go raid the Snug Bungalow. Congratulations on that close win you had against Auburn this weekend. And then y'all be coming to Knoxville here before long, so looking forward to that game. Of course, Tennessee's got to get past Texas A&M and Alabama before they play Georgia, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, thanks for coming in. And here we go. We're going over to the Snug Bungalow. And everybody have a great Monday and a great week.